Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Leader Show, where we talk key issues and news at the intersection of business and technology in hopes of making you a better digital leader. We're live every Wednesday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the audio recording is available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Dan Goodstein. I head up IRPA AI, a professional association, media, and peer-to-peer research network, providing education, networking, and advice to over 130,000 members globally, all around automation, enterprise AI, and digital transformation. Today, we're discussing why SEO may soon be a thing of the past and generative engine optimization is crucial for all your businesses, plus headlines for digital leaders from the world of enterprise technology. Thanks to our sponsor, Oracle NetSuite, their cloud ERP helps provide real-time visibility into operational and financial performance. Podcast followers can get preferred pricing of up to 45% off at irpaai.com/NetSuite. And I'm joined today by my co-host. He's Chris Surdak. He's a senior analyst with IRPA AI, an award-winning author, and formerly White House Chief Transformation Office Advisor, partner for digital transformation at Gartner, and AI practice lead at EY. Chris, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, good morning. And where the heck did summer go? It's already cooling off a little bit.
Yes. I'm usually one of those. My wife will tell you that I become very bummed out and not cool to be around at the end of summer because I'm happy that it's over. But I'm enjoying the cool weather in New York. It's like warm during the day and cool at night. And yeah, man, it's time to get back to work. It's that mad dash to the holidays now.
I'm in Southern California now, but as you know, I used to live near you in the Northeast. And autumn was always my favorite time of year, but you can always tell a Northeasterner because they're always complaining about the current season and looking forward to the next one.
Yes, exactly right. I trade that with my Florida colleague who complains all summer about how hot it is. And then I switch with her and then I complain all winter about how cold it is. But that's just part of being a New Yorker. We have the right to do that, Chris, as New Yorkers and New York transplants.
It comes with our birth certificate, I think.
Exactly right. So listen, good news for you. I know you have nothing better to do than hang out on TikTok. The extension of the TikTok app, or the executive order to shut down the TikTok app is not only extended, but it looks like there's rumors of a deal. A potential buyer, the Trump administration is announcing they've extended the deadline for shutting down TikTok because of this proposed deal, which according to a few sources is going to be with Larry Ellison of Oracle fame, and will include a variety of board members, including a seat for the U.S. government. So just in case you weren't already concerned about your privacy, now it's going to go from Chinese oligarchs to the U.S. federal government.
So, welcome to the Patriot Act version 2.0. It only took them 24 years to fully take over our privacy and all of our information. It's somewhat disturbing, frankly, as a guy who's, and you and I have been in this space of privacy and so forth for decades. It's a bit dystopian, but here we go. I don't know if people realize this, but if you go on the equivalent of TikTok in China, it's completely different. It's not a bunch of people like running into a wall with their forehead trying to get laughs or just like the most grotesque stuff you see on American TikTok. It's like people explaining how to become a chess champion or 9-year-olds showing that they know how to do long form linear algebra. It's unquestionably a weapon of mass destruction, as I've described it in the past, and now it's changing hands. So we should be at least interested, if not intrigued.
Google this week topped a $3 trillion market cap valuation for the first time. This is right after, on the heels of that case we talked about last week, the antitrust case, which most people, I think, basically said was a win for Google. Apparently also for Apple, because one of the things that they were able to keep was their preferential treatment on Apple devices, which is a $20 billion revenue stream for the iPhone maker. So both those guys doing pretty well this week.
Well, 20 billion here, 20 billion there. Eventually you have the economy of, the fifth largest company in the world, or country in the world. And again, this is straight out of my 2016 book, Jerk. The world is moving from a capital-centered economy to an information-centered economy. Or, my good friend Douglas Laney, the guy who invented the term big data, his book on infonomics, which is all about how do you monetize data. This is the result. Deflation of money notwithstanding. So everyone's like, oh my gosh, my stocks are so high. No, it's just your dollars are so low, right? Yeah, that's funny how math works that way. There's both sides of the equal sign in the equation. But I mean, it clearly demonstrates the amount of just power that these companies have. You think you're just searching for stuff, but it's astonishing what information about you is worth, and driving your behavior is a huge chunk of that. So I'm not the least bit surprised. I'm kind of surprised it took them this long. But FANG is going to continue. FANG will keep doing FANG things because that's what FANG does. They're going to keep getting bigger and getting more and more of our information.
On the opposite side of the antitrust coin, the Chinese government is accusing NVIDIA of violating their anti-monopoly laws. And the top regulator there is now telling tech firms not to buy, test, or use NVIDIA chips. So kind of interesting, as at least it seems from news sources that the current presidential administration is involved in a couple of these, conversations with Xi in China. On one hand, kind of victory on the TikTok thing. On the other hand, you have this thing where, I don't know, we'll see what the long-term effects are, if this is just a flash of light, but, NVIDIA stock took a little bit of a hit yesterday, after this news came out, that they're going to also cancel existing orders to try to kind of cut resilience on US hardware.
Well, I mean, thankfully, it's quite clear that these two stories, TikTok and NVIDIA being, are completely independent and have nothing to do with one another, because the players are the same. There's tens of billions of dollars. So I'm sure they're completely independent. The interesting side of that is, I've done some work in the chip industry in the past, and it's actually not super surprising because the AI companies, everybody's using GPUs and NVIDIA is the place. But when you're talking about, I think we're down to like 500 nanometers of light so the features on the chips are so fantastically small that it's effectively impossible for a human being to actually see all the circuitry that's burned onto the chip. And so people are burning, let's say hardware encoded backdoors into the chips, so that even if you put whatever software on the chip and you run it and so forth, someone can get in through the back door on the physical hardware side and do all kinds of interesting stuff with those machines. So it's not terribly surprising. The Chinese are balancing this. Hey, I need these chips to compete on AI, but hey, I don't want these backdoors into the AI work we're doing. So it's a gigantic episode of the latest version of Mission Impossible. It's kind of entertaining.
Meanwhile, NVIDIA and Microsoft, according to Wired, are planning on investing $45 billion into the UK on the heels of Trump's visit there, in a push to further align the US and the UK and make tech, AI, and data center investments there, which I thought was coincidental timing again, Chris.
Everything's just accidental like that. You flash right by the picture of the new orange. Why is it orange? iPhone 17. I can't figure that one out, but we'll save that for a later date. But this is interesting also in light of the new implementations and rethinking of the EU laws related to AI, and some of the pushback that's coming against the US, which is looking for a moratorium on AI governance and AI regulation. So there's lots of different, it's 17-dimensional chess going on with lots of different players at different layers of the chessboard. With the UK, it's interesting because while their economy is kind of in shambles and going away, and they have all kinds of social issues as well, they're still extraordinarily powerful from a political influence and intelligence gathering perspective, et cetera. So I'm not super surprised they have a seat at the table, but it's nowhere near like 200 years ago when the sun never set on the British Empire.
You never know it. I mean, you see some of these pictures of the of Trump and the first lady arriving to a royal pomp and circumstance in the golden carriage. I forget what they call, but the very heavy gilded carriage, like it's 1898 again.
I used to live down the street from Buckingham Palace when I lived in London, and pomp and circumstance is amazing. But at this point, it's very much, they called them Potemkin villages. It was like just the face of the storefronts, and there was nothing behind it. It's also like the fake village in the old movie Blazing Saddles, and that's kind of where the British royal crown is now. They got a beautiful golden facade, and behind it is wicker baskets holding it up. I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny. So before we get to our main story, I have two other headlines, and I think that they form what we should do as a new segment, Chris, which is they still exist. So the first one is AOL is being sold. Did you know AOL was still around?
I was just talking
about sold for they think they can sell it for a quick $1.5 billion. I'm like, what?
That's wild. So literally a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to some people about if you recall, way back when, before electricity, AOL, when it was acquired by, was it Time Warner, was the largest acquisition in human history. And it was like this earthquake event back, it was in 99 or 2000, just before the internet bubble burst. So for them to even still be around is astonishing, but being able to pull 1.5 billion out of it, that's pretty impressive. That's almost Yahoo levels of obsolescent resilience.
Yeah, but the subtext here is that they bought it for a lot more. So
well, interesting. I mean, and because of the magic of accounting, they took an amazing tax write down and probably haven't paid taxes in the last 2 decades. But
so the other one is the founder of the now defunct Fire Festival, who just got out of jail. So wanted to sell the IP and the brand on eBay, and guess who bought it? LimeWire. Remember LimeWire? LimeWire, the service you didn't use to pirate music back in the early days of your life. Yes, post Napster, right? But I mean, I can't tell you how I know, Chris, but I know a lot of people that
allegedly people pirated music.
Allegedly, and they apparently still exist and have at least a few $100,000 laying around. So stay tuned for what they plan on doing with this. They're not bringing back the festival, but I guess they saw some value in the brand.
So all these old technologies making a comeback. It makes me, I was, again, talking to someone the other day, the old Einstein quote, which is, I don't know what weapons are going to be used to fight World War III, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. This is like the sticks and stones of tech coming back in the post-AI world. That's hilarious. Yes. We're all gonna be back on dial-up modems using AOL in another 6 months.
Don't laugh. That article that I just turned off was in the Wall Street Journal. Apparently, they're shutting down their dial-up service this month, and I'm like, this month? That thing still exists? Like, are they still mailing CDs to part of the country?
It's a hardline phone. Tell me more about this dial-up. I find it fascinating.
Apparently, there's a segment of the population that is still on a dial-up. So,
hey Dan, this thing is ringing. What do I do?
Warning. I'm guessing those people are probably not watching this show, but if you are, if this is on a dial-up, how do I look on a dial-up connection, by the way? You have until the end of the month, I think, to find a new internet service provider. All right, Chris, let's get to the main topic, which is GEO. I didn't know what this meant until I read this article last week. But it's not too far-fetched from some of the things that we've talked about, but I wanted to drill down on this, which is, hey, anybody who runs a company, a brand, their own business, or is in marketing or advertising has had to deal pretty much the last 30 years with this idea of search engine optimization, that you had to, build your brand and your website and your content based on how these search crawling bots would index it. And it's led to a lot of the, you can we can debate good, bad, or different, but basically the current internet, the way it is, and the content that's out on the internet, and what's a fact and what's not a fact, and those sorts of things. But it's changed, right? Because now all of a sudden people are starting to use generative AI based assistance to either at least do that research, or in some cases now even do their shopping for them. So I'll give you some stats. According to Accenture, 72% of consumers are using ChatGPT and similar tools on a daily basis for product recommendations, deeming it the new influencers of shopping. AI traffic, generative AI traffic to retail sites is up 1,200% since last year, and 3,300% year over year this past Amazon Prime Day. And 18% of AI users are saying that it's their top tool of choice for purchase recommendations, behind only physical stores. Apparently people still go to those, but ahead of social media. You think about what marketing and advertising has been really since Facebook, maybe even MySpace, if you're old enough to remember MySpace, which is this social media, this social driven buying recommendations, right? The whole business has been built on that. And these Gen AI bots, chat bots and the like, are now ahead of social media in influence.
Absolutely horrifying, but inevitable. I mean, absolutely horrifying. And it's for 25 years we talked about the internet being trustless. And as we got onto the internet, we were using search engines. We drove into a post-trust internet, a post-trust society. When you do a Google search, the first 4 or 5 things that shows up is whatever was paid to be put there. And that's the stuff where it clearly says this is a paid advertisement. Then you get into the top 10 of what is supposedly the search results, and those are all paid for too. So we've been living in a quarter century of manufactured reality as it is. And this is kind of why about a year ago, I started coining the phrase the post-truth society, because now that we're taking that manufactured reality thing that made the FANG companies worth $20 trillion or whatever it is, we're going to amplify that even greater with AI. And as you say, that traffic back and forth, that's people, companies, retail sites being pinged all the time by agents. That's insanity. This is what I've been calling this the digital gray goo for like a year now, where it looks like, as you said, was a 3,300% growth or something like that. That's all just bots banging the heck out of your website, and you think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make 100 times as much money this year, and it's just gray goo. It's bots talking to bots. I was on a team call late last week. We had 5 humans, and 3 of them brought an AI otter with them. And I'm like, all right, well, the 5 of us can get off and just let the bots talk to each other. This is a waste of time. And so it's like, why?
It's something you have to address, right? I think we mentioned it last week, but for those who didn't see it, I mean, I saw this ad a couple weeks ago for Otter, actually. Otter, and the whole pitch was send Otter to your meetings instead of you
anymore. Right? No wonder we need UBI. We don't even go to meetings anymore. We've been a performative economy for like half a century.
I kind of love that, Chris. Less meetings.
Well, I agree. I don't want to go to these meetings.
I mean, at least meetings that you don't have to participate in, that you're there just to listen and hear and whatever. Anyway, I digress. But
we're moving into the world of Animal Farm. It's like all the animals are in charge of our meetings and businesses now.
Well, there was there was also that. I mean, this is a whole nother topic for another show, but the CEO of Zoom came out again this week. I think he said something similar previously. I know others have, that, he's predicting a 3-day work week in the next 10 years, just because of all the, the reality is, right. If you're in the corporate world and you spend, somewhere between a day a week and 3 days a week in meetings that you're not actually presenting in or participating in actively, maybe, right? Maybe.
Who makes anything anymore? Which is the problem, because even if we gave everybody $100,000 a year in UBI. We're just going to pay you to live. Nobody's making anything. So what are you going to buy with it?
Mm.
This is a serious problem in the economy.
Well, more things should be created, at least in theory, right?
Well, again, is it something that's useful to me? Well, yeah, we're making amazing AI movies. I was recently hanging out with a movie producer, and she's like, the entire film industry is being nuked because I can make all these great movie things with AI. But it's like, is that worth $4 trillion? Maybe, I don't know. But that's where we're heading very rapidly. And it's funny, I've seen a lot of traffic on LinkedIn lately. It's like, hey, wait a minute. Who's going to double check all this work coming out of the AIs? Because the AIs are wrong a lot. And I'm like, someone had the very, I think, deep thought, and this is something I wrote about 12 years ago. We're going to need more people now. We're not going to need less. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They're just going to be doing different work.
So there's a couple, and by the way, it's only going to get, those stats I mentioned were pre a couple announcements that have happened over the last few months.
So if I may, Dan, so earlier today, I reposted something on LinkedIn. There's a study that just came out that said they were looking at all the interactions, I think particularly with OpenAI, and something like 40% of all the responses by OpenAI were to produce an output, not to answer a question. Which means that 40% of all queries to OpenAI are, do my work for me, I don't feel like doing it. Not, what's the answer to this question? That's horrifying.
Absolutely. Well, it's definitely different, right? So I think, there's a lot of definitions out there right now, and a lot of talk certainly on our network and elsewhere around this idea of agentic AI. But that's one of the differences, right? And when ChatGPT first came out, even me as an industry practitioner, I use ChatGPT basically as a glorified, theoretically better Google search. And then I would have it do summarizations, and I still do, right? Even preparing for the show, right? I consume a lot of content, and I use it to summarize. I use it to, in some cases, even to write copy and stuff like that. But that was the extent of it. What's changing now, if you have a Google-based phone, Gemini has this brainstorming mode now where you talk to this thing. And I'll tell you something, I gave it some I tested it the other day on something related to my boat. And I just described what I saw. I didn't even take any pictures, which you can do. I just described what I saw, and this thing got it perfect. I mean, it was really for the first time I used it as an assistant. And then the next step is, to your point, it actually doing things for you. So you're right on. OpenAI has in April added a shopping, I don't know what they call it, widget or shopping mode that allows consumers to do product research through ChatGPT. Perplexity and PayPal in May announced in-chat shopping on, I guess, PayPal shopping enabled e-commerce store. So now all of a sudden, maybe you're not just searching for potential answers or products. You're asking the engine to give you recommendations based on what it knows about your habits, right?
Dan, this is all stuff I wrote about 10 years ago, predicting it. And in those predictions, I would say, not only are you enabling the agent is going to get to the point where they're like, unless you tell me not to, I'm just going to buy this because I know you want it. We're heading there headlong. And I had an interesting conversation over the weekend with a parent whose child is now newly in college. And they were saying there's actually in college, there's a massive backlash to this, where students are like, no, I did this all by myself without AI, and they're shunning the other students that use AI. Apparently there's an enormous social backlash in higher education from students effectively using AI to cheat. And so it's actually building a massive social stigma, which is fascinating to hear that. And I think we're going to see the impacts of that coming forward. But hey, buy some popcorn. This is going to be intensely entertaining as we do this planet-wide research project on adopting AI and seeing what happens.
Well, so a couple interesting things here. Reading about, I tried to become as much of an expert on this topic as I could going into today, and there's a couple interesting things that kind of came out of it. One is if you're a company and you're marketing something, right, you have to not just optimize for search, but really educate. The term that they used was educate large language models about your products and the context in which you think that your products should be used. And it was this interesting.
There's that dirty word context again, right?
Well, so there's two contexts, right? One is what is known about you and your prep, right? So it learns, right? But the other aspect of it is, I liken it to, in our industry, Chris, as you know, like there's always been these analysts and advisor relations people, media relations people, and their job is to, communicate the value propositions and things to, industry insiders, right? You have to essentially do that for the LLMs now. You have to educate, and each one has its own nuances, right, as to what it's good at and how it sources things. So now you have to kind of educate the LLMs on what you want that context to be. You have to
how the LLM should feel about your product.
Well, at least what back to the context question, right? Like, so one of the interesting things I saw was that the general manager of e-commerce at L'Oreal apparently is adopting this, and he said you have to now get away from just functional descriptions of product features to need states and occasions and intent. He said, instead of just having the SPF benefits of sun cream, it has to be linked to the fact that you're going on a vacation. What do you need on your vacation? And this is one of the things that you need on your vacation, because you're not just searching for sunscreen now. You're saying, hey, I'm planning a trip. Here's where I'm going. What do I need? Right. And all of a sudden the AI is either going to recommend or is going to, leave out the sunscreen thing.
But this is what Madison Avenue in advertising, actually going back to Sigmund Freud himself, it's all about manipulating us to get us to buy crap, and it's been remarkably good at it. I mean, who do cowboys really look tough when they're smoking, like back in the 50s? Or if you pop open a Budweiser, do bikini clad beautiful women automatically show up and want to party with you? No. But is that how we sold stuff for the last century? Yeah. Well, now I got to get that, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Now I got to get that same effect, not with the end consumer, but with this intermediary, which is a context blind AI. And so, you have to build that entire imagery, the entire narrative, the context, as you said, around how to sell my product or service, whatever it is. And it's got to be so articulate that a context blind intermediary that we call AI can figure it out and then extend that on. Otherwise, it has no idea how to respond to you. It is as I've said, AI is basically just an amplifier of whatever we're feeding it. So as much as advertising is really about manipulating the emotional states of consumers, we got to do that by a factor of a million more on this in-between intermediary, which is going to be it's going to make it more effective, but frankly, more dangerous too.
Yeah. So I think what we're saying is it's, if I pick up on your analogy, instead of creating an ad of a cowboy on a horse smoking, we're essentially, maybe that's a bad example because it's a very negative ad, Chris, but you're essentially now saying, forget the consumer. We have to convince the LLMs that when you're on a horse, you need to be smoking, or if you want to be cool, and be rugged, you got to be right.
If you use this L'Oreal skin cream, you'll instantly become a 22-year-old supermodel because that's what's in the advertisement. Now I can't convince you, the end consumer, that you have to go out and buy my skincare product. I have to convince the LLM of that same thing. Well, so now
I'm caught up to where you're scared, which we've talked about before too, right? Which is
once you arm with that power, then what do you do with it? And how do you know when it's lying to you or not?
And not knowing, right? I saw this demo yesterday. I saw this demo yesterday. A Perplexity AI assistant taking it one step further and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go on a picnic and I'm going to make this particular dish. Go to Walmart and Instacart and put everything in the cart that I need." Right? So the AI, goes out and figures out the recipe and where you're going to go and the climate, and all this stuff, and put all this stuff in the cart. you still get to check it, but it's already in the cart, which is really, really cool. But the point is, if you don't check it, if you're busy, if you're doing this because you're busy, right? And you just kind of once skim it, give it a once over, and you hit buy, and all of a sudden you get your groceries and you're out on your picnic and there's a pack of cigarettes. Why did that?
Or a box of
you didn't even choose that. You didn't say, I think cowboys are cool if they smoke. The AI's already just built that into the end result.
Or a box of rat poison. And you're just going to go, oh, wow, this is great. It made up this grandma's recipe for vanilla cookies or whatever. Next thing you know, you take a bite, you fall over dead. We are in a post-truth society at this point. You can't believe anything anymore. I mean, it was bad enough before. But when I say that, and I was just talking with an EU-focused privacy compliance person yesterday, and we were both like, this is absolutely horrifying. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's also completely unmanageable, ungovernable. And for those people who tend to be most susceptible to this kind of manipulative advertising, there's no hope. I mean, they're going to be in a really rough spot.
Yeah, but what if you take it one step? Maybe I'm the optimist here, but you could also do the opposite with it, right? I mean, you could say, instead of putting a warning label on that cigarette pack that nobody ever is going to, the consumer that's going to buy it has already decided that they're smoking it before they get to the pack. They don't get to the store and say, oh my God, I didn't realize this, so I'm not going to buy this pack of cigarettes, right? But what if you could build that Surgeon General warning into the LLMs where it's not even recommending it in the first place?
This is the guardrails that we've been trying to use around generative AI for 3 years. And my favorite quote about these guardrails. It's guardrails on the Autobahn. They don't stop the accidents. They simplify the cleanup. Once these things are trained, it's like baking a cake. Once you train an AI, you can't get the sugar back out of the cake. It's in there. And I can try to put these guardrails around it, but because I can never quite anticipate what questions are going to come up, the context that's going to be fed to the machine, I never can be fully. All the stuff that came out with this Mira, whatever her name is, that got the gajillions of dollars of funding from VCs, and her big announcement last week, oh my gosh, we figured out a way to make it so that LLMs are consistent in their responses, more consistent in their responses. And me and a bunch of other people are like, okay, so now we know that we're going to be wrong all the time, as opposed to whether or not we're going to be right. There's no sense of correctness in the response. We're just trying to reduce the variability. Well, I mean, Dan, you and I have been doing this a long time. If I'm trying to automate a business process, and let's say, example from my own history, if you go to a website for a bank and you say, what's the current loan rate for an auto loan, and it tells you 7.2% or whatever, that's a contract. That's a legal offer that the bank is now beholden to. And 25 years ago, when we were building websites that interacted with you, we thought we had to take a screenshot of every time I rendered that page. And instead, the workaround was save a copy of the database, save a copy of the website code, and I can recreate the past reliably.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
LLM, you're never going to get the same answer twice. I can't do it anymore.
I'm just trying to say, it's kind of like, we could beat this to death, but it is inevitable, right? So if you're a marketer watching this, then what's the upside? I think there's a couple upsides. One is that, the LLMs, although they are trained and maybe there's some slop there, but they're constantly scraping the web for answers, some every day, some every minute, right? So you have an opportunity as a business, as a marketer, to change the perception of your brand, of your product, in a way that SEO would take, could cost you 6 months to get your SEO fixed if it was off. Now, you could get, better results. And I think also as marketers, we refer to, these things about buyer personas, right? Where you can kind of cater your products to particular, buyers personas. And I think there's an opportunity here to be really creative, to say, hey, instead of just selling a bunch of widgets, I can kind of create this experience for my customers. And part of that experience is, here's the products that we think you're going to want if you go on that trip or you do that picnic or whatever, and opposed to hoping that the consumer has somehow figured out from my 11-second ad during the Super Bowl what we do.
You have infinite markets of one with optimal customer intimacy. It's very compelling vision, but it's also, again, quite scary. And to your point, it's like I'm coming off as all negative. This is just because everybody is like, oh, this is the most wonderful thing ever. It's in my nature to say, do the yeah, but exercise. Technology doesn't care how you use it. It has no morals. And there's red lightsabers and blue lightsabers. Are you going to be the Sith or are you going to be the Jedi? Most of us are kind of a little of both. And so it's going to be compelling for generating, amazing customer relationships, amazing customer experiences, et cetera. But the costs are going to be extremely high. And then the other thing, and again, I've been writing about this for over a decade. There's the better be a baller effect, as I mentioned. If getting that messaging right for the LLM is so critical to being dominant, then I need the very best advertising person or marketing person to come up with that campaign. So all of a sudden, if you're like a top 5 marketing person, you're one of these people getting a $200 million a year offer from Meta. And if you're number 6 in the world, you're making lattes at Starbucks.
I agree. I agree. There's certainly a risk with a AI, anything or anyone making decisions on your behalf without you having the context of how that decision was made. However, I would argue that if it's communicated properly and done properly, it has the potential to be better than it is now. Because if you think about how it works now, people go on social media with algorithms that are designed to feed them the garbage that they already think, believe in, whatever, or their group of friends that, have the same exact beliefs that these algorithms are already designed. And I think maybe just to us, maybe it's not to the rest of the world, but I think more covertly than even the at least with the AI, you could say, hey, we're going to source it, if you or we're going to go into the shopping cart. We're going to let you go through that shopping cart before you hit buy. And by the way, even if you buy it, we're not forcing you to open the pack of cigarettes or the rat poison that we ended up delivering to you, right? But right now, people don't necessarily know why they buy certain products, because you have social media, you have these community buying groups through Facebook or whatever, and one of the biggest sources, although it's down, I think this year, probably related to AI, but 2 years ago, you had all these social media influencers that, because somebody is a celebrity that you respect, you're gonna take their recommendation, recommendation on products, right?
Yep. The very first thing we did with the technology 15 years ago was we figured out who was most influenceable, and then we turned them into influencers. And then you have thousands of Manchurian candidates that you can sell practically anything with them. That was core to the entire business model, straight out of my books. That's exactly how we built Fang. And it's just going to become even more powerful from that perspective. But you're spot on. And again, I don't want to come off as like a total naysayer, because there's going to be great stuff that comes with it. But this technology is like getting a 5-pound ball of plutonium. If I make it fizz slowly, I can power all of America for 5 years. If I make it fizz quickly, I can blow up Manhattan. It's how we use it that matters. And we need to be very judicious about a technology as powerful as this.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I'm just saying I think we have the opportunity to make it actually, if you compare it to nothing, it sounds scary. When you compare it though, in context to the way things are going right now, where, people, are in their echo chambers based on the algorithms and the platforms that they consume, and are buying products based on, those algorithms without maybe even knowing that they're it's not a zero-sum game. So, if all of a sudden you can put the right, guardrails or whatever in place, or maybe it's a legal thing. Maybe it's I don't necessarily love that either, but if the regulators, I remember talking to, one of the top regulators at the SEC at the beginning of the robotic process automation space, and asking him if he liked it, because I said, hey, you automate the crap out of something bad, you get a lot of crap at scale. He said, yeah, but the benefit of that over people is it's auditable. You can go back and see why the automation happened, right? So maybe this new GEO thing, well, while it's not perfect, maybe it's an auditable and controllable way of picking how things are advertised and promoted to kids and things in a way where you can't control what Mr. Beast recommends to your kids on his social channels, right?
In defense of Mira, whatever her name is, and the Thinking Machines company she started, whatever. I'm literally having this conversation on social media all this week since she came out. There is, and this is the principle we had back when I was building spacecraft. There is value to having everyone on the same wrong page, because at least then when you fix the problem, it's fixed consistently. Right. When it's scattershot and I have no idea what's going to come up the next time I put in a prompt, I don't know. It's Forrest Gump with his box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get. Yeah. So getting the output so it's reliably wrong is actually a step in the right direction, strangely.
The other takeaway, which is relevant to our audience, in particular, I think, is this idea. This is a very technical driven marketing, right? So now all of a sudden the other challenge becomes, if you're a big company, you've had to deal with, and I've been a part of this debate in companies where corporate wants certain guardrails and certain compliance and all that stuff. And the creative people are like, I'm getting my butt kicked by startups who are a lot more nimble and quick on their feet and allow their social media platforms to be a little bit more organic and customer, and corporate doesn't like that because they can't control that. That's hard enough in the social media generation. Now, you really need a tighter collaboration between marketing, product, and the data science teams and the IT teams. And those are not people that typically speak the same language in a big company, right?
And it sounds extraordinarily affordable, right? We can like, outsource all that to multiple countries around the world and we'll get great results, right? Back to the whole idea, the more that we're using these technologies and dependent upon them, the rarer and more expensive the necessary expertise is going to become. It's actually a tremendous catch-22 we're putting ourselves into.
Crazy. Well, listen, it keeps things exciting. It keeps us talking, and there's no easy answers, but that's okay.
Well, I've been giving this example to a lot of colleagues, so I'll bring it up with you because it happened here. I don't know if we were talking to one of our guests like 3 weeks ago or something. If you recall, when we started talking, I had noticed behind him on his shelf in his office, he had the giant geode. If you remember that, the big rock, it's the rock with the crystals inside. And I said, hey, and I did this on purpose because I knew it was going to happen. I had said, hey, that's a really cool geode. And he was like, yeah, great, thanks. As soon as we got off our podcast, like 25 minutes later, I hopped over to YouTube and I was getting commercials for amethyst jewelry. Well, amethyst is what's inside of the geode. They're watching everything that we do every minute that we do it. Like I said earlier, I was on the call with 5 other colleagues and we had 3 otters on the line. Everything is being watched and monitored in real time. And so you just test it out, try it. When you're on a Zoom.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. But the question. So I'm personally beyond the holy crap moment, and I'm at the how can I use this to benefit?
We've erased your creepy line. I used to call it, right? What's my creepy line? Yeah.
I mean, I feel the creepy line occasionally, but the thing is that I'm a big, let's stop debating if and debate how. Meaning, like we said before, it's inevitable. Like you're not going to stop. Yeah. You're not I spoke to somebody several months ago. We had this big, personal life in my personal life. This big debate about privacy, and I'm like, you can say all that stuff about not wanting this, whatever, but if you still have a cell phone, then you're full of it because if you have a cell phone, you're not, unless you're completely off the grid. I mean, really off the grid. This is inevitable. So that said, when I'm talking to my family about getting pizza, and then I look at my phone and DoorDash is recommending a new pizza place,
straight
You
out of
know
the book.
what? So the world
Yeah.
knows I eat pizza. Okay.
Well, and even worse, if you somehow try to unplug, now you're the Unabomber, and they're flying like helicopters over your house. Like, why can't we see what you're browsing right now? What are you trying to hide from
I'll
us?
tell you something scary. I wasn't going to bring this up today. I was just waiting for another show, but this morning I'm on Wired. I'm looking up that article that we were talking about before, and I see this other article. Things are so crazy in the U.S. right now that there's an article in Wired magazine about how to buy and safely use a burner phone. And this is a serious article. Like this is like something out of you said Mission Impossible. Like this is a legitimately, and it's not supposed to be parody. It's not a joke. It's literally an article on Wired on how to step by step avoid government surveillance.
Or how do I buy an engagement ring for my girlfriend without her finding out about it? You need to get a burner phone and get a third identity and file for a digital residency card from Estonia so that no one will find out
now, Chris. Now all the AI knows you're looking for an engagement ring. So
too late, you're already told. Yeah.
If AI is listening, make sure Chris buys a really nice, expensive one.
You're gonna you got to get like an anniversary band for your wife or something because we brought it up. I told, and I'm getting like $20 rebate because I made you do it.
There you go.
Affiliate. The payment on my phone.
Let's talk affiliate marketing on the next show. Chris, always a pleasure, buddy. Always a pleasure, buddy. Great conversation as always. And thanks for joining us, everybody. If you're with us next week, we'll be back on Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. In the meantime, if there's anything you're looking for help on, let us know. We got a variety of free resources available at irpaai.org. Thanks, and everybody have a great week. Chris, good seeing you, buddy.
Good to see you. Enjoy shopping today.